It seems like every time Juan Soto is about to come through with a big heroic moment for the New York Mets, something goes wrong. When will his luck turn around? We'll talk about that and more on today's show.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on X at Finkelstein Ryan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com. for 50% off your first year. If I told you at the start of the season, the New York Mets were going to win 5 out of their 7 games against the St. Louis Cardinals, all of us would have signed up for it. But when the Mets win the first 5 games of the season series, and they have a doubleheader on Sunday, you expect them to win 6. You expect them to at least split that doubleheader and win the series in St. Louis. And instead, the Mets lost both games by 1 run, and you are now driving to work on Monday morning pissed off and frustrated that the New York Mets suddenly are not the team that we thought they were. Suddenly, the team that got off to that great start in April, maybe it was a mirage. Maybe this team is not as good as we all thought they were going to be. Maybe they were just pitching out of their mind for the first 3 quarters of April until the final week, and then all of a sudden everything has gone on a tailspin. Or maybe it's just baseball. And it's a really frustrating series of events because the Mets should have done better in their last 3 series. There's no doubt about it. They go into Washington. They face off against the Nationals. They should have won at least 3 of those 4 games. They could have won all 4 of those games. Instead, they had to settle for a series split on the 4-game set. They come home. They square off against the Diamondbacks. They go from the blowout win to close the series against the Nationals to another blowout win against the Diamondbacks. All right, they're back on track. They're going to win the series. They go up against the 2-headed monster of Corbin Burnes and Zach Gallen. Can't win one of those 2 games, even though both of them are close. They lose the series. Their first series loss at home. Now, granted, they started the season 13-1 at Citi Field, so maybe that's just some regression to the mean. All right, you know what? Flush it. Go to St. Louis. You win the first game. All right. So far this season, the Mets have yet to lose 3 games in a row. They've lost 2 games in a row multiple times, but every time they do, they snap right out of it. They win a game. So, all right, what's going to happen in St. Louis? They're going to win. They did. They win the game, the first game, rain out on Saturday. All right, doubleheader. You're going to win 1, and you don't win either. And so you lose a series, and now you're looking at that stretch of games, that 10-game stretch, and you're 4-6 in your last 10. It's frustrating. I get it. But do I think that this should be a referendum against the New York Mets? Do I think this is a team that can't get it done with runners in scoring position, that's never going to figure it out? Do I think that Juan Soto is a bust on the $765 million contract because he had a home run rob that would have turned the second game around for the Mets? No. I think it's baseball. And sometimes you're going to lose, and sometimes the other team's going to beat you. And I think if you look at this set of games against the Cardinals, they beat the Mets just as much as the Mets might have lost it or not come through. There was moments where the Mets absolutely could have executed better, but you also have to credit the Cardinals for executing very well. I already broke down game 1, so if those of you are looking for my reaction to Blade Tidwell's debut, I did a full show in between games where I talked about that, broke down that game, talked about where the Mets came up short offensively, so you can go back and listen to it. But one of the big moments of that game was Pete Alonso comes up with the bases loaded and gets into a full count. If he draws a walk there, the Mets score a run, and Jojo Romero locates a backdoor breaking ball perfectly. Puts it in a place where Pete Alonso has no chance of doing anything with it. The best he could have done is fouled it off to stay in the at-bat. But also, if that ball stays outside, it is a run. So you can't knock Pete for taking it. It's just a well-executed pitch by Jojo Romero that ultimately wins the game for the St. Louis Cardinals. Then you talk about the second game. And there was a couple different things that went against the Mets. First one, Tyler McGill had a bad start. But It's a start that could have been a little bit better. Mark Vientos doesn't make a play. If he makes that play, McGill's start looks a lot different. Luis Acuna for the game-winning run. He clearly needs to work on his cutoffs. In each game, he made a mistake on cutoffs. Mets coaches are going to work with him on that before games, and he'll iron that out, and he'll be fine. But for this doubleheader, it cost the Mets. Well, it didn't cost the Mets in both games because in the first game, they ended up, Nolan Arenado, some bad base running, and ended up coming back to the Mets. But in the second game, it absolutely cost the Mets the game-winning run. And then the Cardinals played exceptional defense and won a game with their gloves. So I don't think that this means the Mets suck. I think the Mets had a sucky day. But let's go through it a little bit. Tyler McGill gives up a 2-run homer in the second inning. Gary Cohen gets his wish. He was begging for it. It seemed like every time Alec Burleson came up, he's like, oh, Burleson hasn't homered this year. Burleson hasn't homered this year. Still looking for his first home run. Well, there it was. Mets battle back and score 4. Tyrone Taylor, Francisco Lindor each get base hits to start a rally. Juan Soto grounds into a force out, trades places with Lindor. Pete Alonso gets a base hit for his 31st RBI of the season, driving in Taylor. Mark Vientos draws a walk to load the bases. Brandon Nimmo strikes out, but Starling Marte comes through with a couple of outs and a bases loaded spot, gets a hit that drives in 2. Mets are up 4-2. Fortunately, Tyler McGill gives it back, but there was that big play that I referenced. Mark Vientos has a chance to get the final out of the inning, coming in on a slow roller off the bat of Nolan Arenado, a play that, if roles were reversed, Arenado would have made. Vientos comes in on it. He had time. Doesn't make a good throw to first base. Now, Pete Alonso, he digs that out a lot of times, but he didn't. And so Pete can't make the pick. Vientos' throw was not charged in error, but it probably should have been. And ultimately, it extends the inning. A run comes in, and then McGill gives up a base hit to Contreras, and now all of a sudden it's a tie game. But had Vientos made that play, it's a 4-2 baseball game. The Mets never give up the lead, and they maybe never do give up the lead. And McGill saves 13 pitches on his pitch count. Maybe he goes another inning. I don't think McGill pitched horribly, but you also have to acknowledge that both of the runs that scored in that inning were walks. Walks come back to bite you, and that's what happened to McGill there. But again, Vientos could have converted that play. Different ball game. With the game tied the next inning, the Mets nearly get 3 runs back. They nearly get the 2 runs back that they gave up and an additional one. As Juan Soto crushes one, dead center, travels over 400 feet, 106 miles per hour off the bat, a bomb. 1 foot too short. Victor Scott leaps. The ball had a lot of hang time on it. He was able to really time it well, times his jump perfectly, robs a 3-run homer. As I mentioned in the cold open, every single time that Juan Soto's on the verge of a big home run, a big hit, something goes wrong. Remember that home run that just hooked foul? Was that against the Phillies? It might have been against the Phillies at Citi Field. Would have been a monster home run. Just goes foul. Here has a chance for a 3-run homer after the match just let up. They could have roared right back, taken a big lead, and they never would have given it up from there. It's caught. And then later in that inning, Brandon Nimmo has an opportunity still to cash in those runs because Pete Alonso walked below the bases. Vientos struck out, looking, by the way. But Nimmo had a chance, hit the ball really hard. Just got a little bit of too much air under it. 107 miles per hour off the bat, but it hung up there for Jordan Walker, who made a diving catch. And that was essentially the ball game as the Mets really couldn't get anything else going offensively. Now, Tyler McGill got through the 5 innings. Bottom of the 6th, Max Kranick comes on. He gives up the winning run, allowed a base hit, then a double that scored the run. But if the Mets execute a relay properly, they would have gunned down the catcher at the plate, who went from first to home on the double. Luis Acuna, like I mentioned, needs to work on his cutoffs. He wasn't aggressive going out to cut off that baseball. Instead, it gets past him. Lindor has to try to cut it off, make a crazy play, doesn't come up with it, and the run just is able to score without even a play at the plate. But had Acuna been aggressive, gone out and gotten that ball, made the throw home, you would have had the runner dead to rights. That's the game-winning run. Completely different ball game. Instead, that's the difference in a 1-run game. So it's just a rough game where the breaks did not go the Mets' way. It's going to happen. But I don't think that Mets fans today should be complaining about anything. I don't think Mets fans should be doubting this team. Not now. Not when this is still a team in first place, well above 500, with a good pitching staff and a lineup that, despite the struggles in the doubleheader of not getting that one extra big hit that would have won either game, a lineup that is all of a sudden getting 10 hits almost every game, that has 4 hitters atop their lineup that could very well be as good of a quartet as any team has in baseball now that Nimmo is starting to roll, and the fact that Soto is, I think, on the verge of a massive hot streak. The hits just got to start falling, and you have Alonso and Lindor. So I want to talk about the lineup in the next segment. I'll also touch on Jesse Winker's injury, who is going to replace him. We're going to go through all of that in just a minute. First, though, quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track your shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. If you're watching on YouTube today, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Help us get closer to our next goal of 14,000 subscribers. Now, before we talk about the Jesse Winker injury, I want to acknowledge the fact that Brandon Nimmo just had his best week of the season. He's hitting the ball hard. He's starting to get some results. He seems to be turning the corner. Francisco Lindor continues to be a steadying presence atop the Mets lineup. Pete Alonso is a legit MVP candidate. And Juan Soto continues to get unlucky. Seems like every time he comes up, he hits the ball over 100 miles per hour off the bat, and still it ends up in somebody's glove. Someone makes a diving catch. Somebody robs a home run. Hits it just right at people. Is this just Soto is unlucky? You look at his career BABIP, which is batting average on balls put in play. 304 is his career BABIP. This year is 274, so 30 points lower than the career norm. Look at his expected batting average. 291 this year. And his actual batting average is 256. So definitely hitting to some bad luck. His strikeout rate, walk rates, they're all normal. They're in line with what he's done in his career. He's hitting the ball hard like he has throughout his career. The hard hit rate, the average exit velocity, it's all fine. So what is the issue? The one thing you can point at is barrel percentage. His barrel percentage is down. Now, what is barrel percentage? Barrel percentage, it is not just about hitting the baseball hard. It's a combination of a couple things. It's hitting the ball hard, and your launch angle, where you're hitting on the bat, and the expected outcome of where you hit the baseball. So, yeah, you could have an expected batting average on a pop-up that drops in, and that expected batting average for where you place that ball can still be very high. But you didn't hit that baseball hard. So it's the combination of all these things where, when you hit that ball at 98 miles per hour with a 26-degree launch angle into left center field, the expected batting average is 800 on that ball. And the expected slug is over 1,000, whatever it is, right? That is how you come up with barrel percentage. His barrel percentage is way down this year. Why is that? Juan Soto is just missing the sweet spot a little bit. And I think you're seeing that particularly with fastballs. He's hitting 226 against fastballs this year, 419 slug. Last year, he hit 327 against fastballs with a 747 slug. What's the issue? Hitting the ball on the ground more. His ground ball rate's not crazy, but it's the balls that he's able to handle that he's hitting really hard, that he's hammering into the ground, or he's just getting under them. And he's hitting a ball like that robbed home run, where if Juan Soto is completely right, the launch angle is a little bit better. He gets it where he doesn't have as much loft on it, and instead of going 408, it goes 428, and Scott doesn't have a chance to make a play on the ball. Now, it's a point of nitpicking because you'll take it all the time if a guy can drive the baseball the way Soto did to dead center and potentially hit a 3-run homer. But it's those little inches, little fractions that are coming back to hurt Soto and the Mets, where instead of a 3-run homer, it's a robbed homer. But it doesn't mean that he's not going to figure it out. When you are hitting the ball hard as consistently as he is, the dam is going to break eventually. Eventually, you're going to iron out that launch angle and get it where you want it to be. You are going to find the sweet spot of the barrel a little bit more. You are going to hit balls that nobody can catch. And Juan Soto has a home run heater that is coming. He has a stretch where he's going to hit over 400 for a couple weeks. It's coming. You just got to wait for it. And when it does come, if Brandon Nimmo is swinging it the way he is, if Lindor and Alonso are swinging it the way they are, that's a top 4 that few teams could match. So be patient, because this lineup is going to come around. Not to mention, Jeff McNeil and Francisco Alvarez, they're only 7 games into their season, and they're both hovering around an 800 OPS. Alvarez a little bit above it, McNeil a little bit below it. Over the last 14 games played for Tyrone Taylor, he's hitting 325. Over the last 23 games played by Luis Angel Acuna, he's hitting 329. Over the last 12 games by Mark Vientos, he's hitting 298 with an 859 OPS. That's 5 guys right there to pair with your top 4. Now, how you fit all those guys in the lineup, we'll see. Does Nimmo and Soto DH some with McNeil in the outfield? Could we see Vientos get some more DH days with Acuna at third base? I think that's a possibility. I'd still think, even with all of Vientos' experience at third base, Acuna would probably play the position better. We already saw he's better at coming in on the ball. He's got to learn the cutoff thing, but that's a couple of one-on-one sessions. You figure that out. It's fine. Like he's a great fielder. So I wouldn't mind that at all. Some more time with McNeil at second, Acuna at third, and Vientos at DH with Jesse Winker out. It's not a bad combination whatsoever. But even when 4 of those guys are in the lineup and there's a Starling Marte in there, maybe, obviously Terrence is going to start some games for Alvarez, or Jose Azocar gets the token start, or whoever comes up for Jesse Winker gets the start. You have so many bats in this lineup that can hurt teams. And the Mets are fine. I really do. Now, the question now becomes, what do you do with that spot with Jesse Winker? For those of you who didn't know, Jesse Winker exited the first game of the doubleheader with an oblique injury, getting sent to New York for more imaging. So we'll find out exactly how long he'll be out for, how severe is the oblique strain, but obliques are tricky. So this could be an injury that knocks Winker out of the lineup for an extended period of time. I really don't know. Question now is, how do the Mets replace him on the roster? Who do they go to? Do they call on Brett Baty? And how much of a loss is Jesse Winker? I should mention, Winker over the last 11 games played, hitting 310 with a 416 on base, 483 slug, 900 OPS. Winker's giving great at-bats lately. So this is not an easy loss, although it is easier to replace a DH. I think this is a spot the Mets can fill by upping the playing time of some other guys. It helps them keep Tyrone Taylor in center field, but get Jeff McNeil in the lineup specifically. Now, Brett Baty, as I've talked about on the show, has been out of the lineup in Syracuse for a couple days. Didn't really know what was going on. Now it has been reported. Mike Mayer, I think might have been the first one to it for Mets Mirage, a toe injury, a injured big toe on his right foot. But he's gone through his workouts the last couple of days. Carlos Mendoza didn't seem too concerned about it. So the simplest move is Brett Baty comes up. And then Baty would allow you to DH Vientos a little bit more, where you could start Baty at third base. You could sort of keep your rotation between Taylor, Acuna, and McNeil the way you've had it over the last week, where these guys are all getting playing time, but they're all getting some time off too. That could be the way to do it. Absolutely. And I think ultimately, if you're talking about collecting the best 13 guys on the roster, that is the way to do it. And if Winker's going to be out for an extended period of time, this does open an opportunity. Why have Jose Azocar and another guy from AAA on the roster for an extended period, where you would theoretically have the playing time to get Baty some more run? And Baty did look good before he got sent down. So that should theoretically be the most likely option. But I want to throw a caveat out there. If the Mets are just looking for the healthiest body that's swinging it well, and maybe they wanted Baty to get that time in AAA, they wanted him to play every single day. Maybe they wanted to give Vientos some more rope and see what he can do, but they also wanted a contingency plan that's rolling in AAA. So if they decided at some point that Vientos wasn't the answer at third base, or they had to shift some things around, that Baty would be ready to go. If that's the direction the organization chooses here, don't be surprised if Jared Young comes up instead. Jared Young started off his season hurt. I can't remember exactly what the injury was. I think it was some type of a lower leg injury that had him off to a slower start to his season. Began the year in St. Lucie. He's now played 10 games in Syracuse, though. He's hitting 281, 452 on base, 531 slug, 1 homer, 5 doubles in those 10 games, 7 walks to 6 strikeouts, a 983 OPS. He give you a lot of positional flexibility. He could play second, third, left, right, first base as well. Pretty much anywhere in the corners he can play. So it's an interesting option for the Mets. He is on the 40-man roster. So I think it's one of those two guys because they are left-handed bats that could fill the other half of a DH platoon. Granted, with Baty, I think you'd probably put his glove in the third base and have Vientos DH. I think with Young, you might actually have Young just DH, but those are the options for the Mets that I would look at primarily. The one guy that's not on the roster that theoretically could come up if you're just looking at a straight DH situation is John Singleton. He had 7 home runs in AAA this year, 923 OPS, but again, he's not on the 40-man roster. Those are the 3 guys I would look at specifically. Joey Meneses had a decent start to his season in Syracuse, also not on the 40-man roster, and he's right-handed, so I don't think he would complement Starling Marte very well. So that's really what I think the decision comes down to. It's likely Baty or Young. I would probably lean a little. If Baty was completely healthy, I would definitely be leaning Baty here. But because of the toe thing, and I'm really kind of 50-50 on it. I think it's one or the other. So we'll see what the Mets choose to do. But regardless of who they bring up, I still think you're going to see some more playing time go to Starling Marte at DH. You're going to see the Mets continue to get McNeil in there, continue to get Tyrone Taylor playing center field, Acuna getting a bunch of run. I think those guys are still higher up on the pecking order than Brett Baty would be. And that could be why Jared Young comes up instead, where maybe you see Jared Young in the Jose Azocar role of playing once a week instead. But regardless, we still have a series to preview, so I want to get to that to close out the show. First, though, another quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives your business flexibility by connecting it with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who has delivered incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you'll get multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps you find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork, UPWRK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. If you're an everyday listener to the show, make sure to become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our texting service where you get updates from me anytime news breaks from the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime. You can also take part in our Locked On Mets signed photo giveaways, and you get the lineup graphic sent to your phone each day so you know who's going to start a lineup without ever having to go on social media. If you want to be Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Now, before I get into the series preview, Mets versus Diamondbacks, I want to mention one more name for the Jesse Winker replacement, and that is Drew Gilbert. Theoretically, the Mets could go there and have Jesse Winker come up, factor into the center field mix. He has gotten off to a pretty good start this season in Syracuse. I just don't think they're going to go there because I think Drew Gilbert still needs to develop as a hitter, and he has not gotten a really long extended run in AAA to really develop. And I think that's what the Mets should prioritize right now. Hey, if you need a starting center fielder and Drew Gilbert's going to be your guy, see what that looks like when Tyrone Taylor's not swinging it well, where you aren't still trying to find playing time for McNeil and Acuna. There's time for that down the line. I don't think you have to rush Drew Gilbert up for injury when you still have Baty, you still have Young, and you still have a lot of talent on your MLB roster. So that's why I did initially mention Drew Gilbert, but I think some of you might be wondering, so that's my take on Gilbert. Now let's talk about this series between the Mets and the Diamondbacks. They just saw each other last week to start off the week. As I already mentioned on the show, Diamondbacks got their 2 aces on the mound, and they won them a series over the weekend. They didn't have either of them pitching against the Phillies, and they lost the series, nearly got swept. They were able to win the series finale. They were up 7-1, and the Phillies came back and forced it into extras. Luckily for the Diamondbacks, and by extension the Mets, because it was against the Phillies, they scored 3 runs in extras and ended up winning it. It's a tough team. They now get to come home after a road trip where they went into a couple hostile environments. It's a lineup that can definitely get on you, and they're a team that has some interesting pitchers that the Mets are going to see in this series, but one of them got scratched, and that was a big benefit to the Mets. Corbin Burns is having his start skipped due to shoulder inflammation. He has not been put on the IL, which is interesting. So they think it might just be a one-start thing. Instead of facing Corbin Burns, the Mets are going to go up against Ryan Nelson, who they did see out of the bullpen last week. He was very good. 4 innings pitched, did not allow a hit, walked 2, 4 scoreless on 68 pitches. That was the last time he threw, so he's on 5 days rest. Not sure how many pitches he can go. I'd imagine he wouldn't have a full 100, but maybe 75. So it'll probably be something close to a normal start for Nelson, who was in their rotation, I believe last year, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see what Nelson has to offer. This is definitely the guy to try to beat up on, because the other 2 games of the series, you're going up against Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly, much more established, better starting pitcher. So this is the one you got to go out and win. Griffin Canning has not faced the Diamondbacks yet this season. He pitched that blowout victory against the Nationals to cap off that series last Monday. So he's on pretty much a full week of rest here. Canning in that last start allowed 4 hits, walked 3, but did not give up a run over 5 innings pitched. He said he wanted to get deeper into games after that start. Well, now after getting 6 days rest, he should be ready to go to really eat up some innings for a Mets team that needs it. I mean, they used a lot of pitchers to get through the doubleheader. Luckily, they had an off day before that, so I don't know if anybody would necessarily be burned. Crackin and Brazoban only worked, for Brazoban it was an out. For Crackin, it was an inning. Budo didn't pitch, so Budo probably the likely guy that'd follow Canning at some point. Give him a clean inning, Carlos. I think you've learned from your mistakes on that one the last couple times. Jose Budo has pitched much better when he's gotten clean innings, so you might be able to pencil in 2 scoreless if you have him come in for the 7th and the 8th after Canning gives you 6, and then all of a sudden you're just bridge the gap right to Edwin Diaz. That is the ideal outcome, but it is always tough to pitch in Arizona, so we'll see exactly how things go for the Mets tonight. Game 2 will be David Peterson versus Zach Gallen. Gallen was great against the Mets, allowed just 2 hits. One of them was a solo homer by Juan Soto. That was all he gave up in 6 innings. He is a tough draw, but it's never easy to face the same lineup twice, so we'll see if the Mets had better luck this time, although the same thing can be said about the other pitcher in that matchup. David Peterson last pitched against the Diamondbacks, allowed 1 run on 5 hits, no walks across 5 innings pitched, only struck out 2 in that game. So that is a very good pitching matchup, and there's another good one to close out this series. Kodai Senga versus Merrill Kelly. Kelly has a 4.06 ERA on the year, but that is a little bit deceiving. He has pitched much better than that. He allowed 9 runs to the Yankees in his second start of the season. Every other start this year, his other 6, he's allowed 2 earned runs or fewer, and he's pitched into the 6th inning in all but 2 of his starts. That one start against the Yankees where he got knocked out in the 4th inning, giving up 9 runs. The other one, his most recent start against the Phillies, where he was rolling through 5, was on only at 60 pitches, but he got pulled early due to cramping. So we'll see if that happens again against the Mets, but you certainly wouldn't expect it to, and this is a guy that isn't pitching very well. So it's a tough series. This is a good Diamondbacks team, a good lineup, a good rotation, a bullpen that has some arms that can absolutely set you down in a close game. I think it's a little bit of a thinner bullpen that you can get to, but that requires you to get these starting pitchers out of the game. Big opportunity game 1 here for the Mets to beat Ryan Nelson and get to that early series lead. And then you just got to take your chances against 2 really good pitchers in Gallen and Kelly. But Kodai Senga being on the mound for the Mets in that final game, you feel pretty good about it. This is on the Mets here. Go out, win a series. You come home with a 500 road trip. You even your season series against the Diamondbacks, which, as we saw last year, that can be very important. That could be the difference at the end of the season between making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. So any of these teams that are going to be in contention in the National League, which is as deep as ever, there's so many good teams in the NL right now, you really got to take those head-to-head seriously. So this is a huge series for the Mets. It's never easy to play in Arizona. Those games are never over. At any point, a team can string together a bunch of hits and put a really good rally up. So it's a tough place, particularly for your bullpen, to hold leads. But that goes both ways. So the Mets are never going to be out of it. I feel really good about where their lineup's at right now. Yes, some tough matchups coming, but beat up on Ryan Nelson, win the first game, get off to a good start, and you'll be in line to potentially win a series in Arizona and come home again on a 500 road trip. Doesn't have to be pretty. Just get to 500 on the road and stack wins at home, and the Mets can absolutely win this division and be a really feared playoff team. So we'll see what they do. I'll be breaking down whatever happens in this game. I'll also be talking about whatever updates we get on the Jesse Winker injury. If there's a timeline, we'll know who comes up and takes a spot on the roster. So there will be a jam-packed show for you tomorrow. I appreciate all of you for tuning in. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Follow me on social media at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find a link in the episode description or go to subtext.com/Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen, your first watch every day. Now for your second watch, check out Locked On MLB Game Night, the show that will take you around Major League Baseball and give you recaps of everything that happened across the league with insights from all of our local experts and a couple of hosts that will bring you through all of the action. Check out Locked On MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel and the Locked On MLB podcast feed.